So I'm going to discuss blending and sharp edges, and this is going to be really important to this project. With regard to blending, I'm going to talk about three types of blends. Okay, so the first type of blending technique I'm going to talk about is wet next to wet. This is where you have wet paint apply next to wet paint, and then you blend along the edge. And you're going to want to make sure that both paints are wet. And you're going to want to pre-mix them beforehand. And so that's what I have right here. I pre-mix my paints. So I'm going to use this one. It's kind of pale yellow. And then this green right here. Okay, we'll start by applying the yellow. I'm doing this on paper, but it'll work similarly, if not be easier, on canvas. There's more texture on the surface of the canvas, so it'll help to blend the paint. It won't slip around as much. Okay, so now I'm going to get the other color, the green. This blue-green. Okay, I'm going to go like this and begin to push it up against the edge. Now it'll start to blend once you start to kind of brush it up against the edge. You'll start to see it blend. Okay, now if you want to blend it, you already see how it's softer. Now if you want to blend that more, what you could do, you could get a clean and damp brush. You don't want it to be too wet because then it'll wipe the paint off. And I'm using a filbert. And then you just want to very gently kind of finesse the edge, okay? Okay, and you get a blend like that. Okay, so we're going to talk about another type of blending technique, and this is wet on wet. And this is very useful for getting very smooth gradations, such as the ones you would see on a sky. Basically, you're going to have wet paint, you're going to blend wet paint into it. So first you're going to want to have both of your colors, or if you have three of your colors, blended or mixed beforehand. So I'm going to pre-mix your colors. Okay, and you want to apply down. Okay, one color. Okay. And then you're going to want to get your other color. You're going to want to mix this into there. Okay, just work it in. Go up the blend and down the blend. Okay, and you realize you might have to mix more in. Okay, so you get more of the color. You apply it down here. And mix it in, okay? Okay, and that'll give you a fairly smooth transition, or quite smooth transition. And more practice, you'll get even smoother. Okay, so I'm going to show you another type of blending technique, and this is called wet on dry. And basically, you have a surface that's dry. Okay, this is dry. and you're putting wet paint on top of it, and you're blending it in. And this works best with colors that are closer to each other. If the colors are widely different, you're going to start to see a lot of streaks. Okay, so you play. Paint down, and then you get another brush that's clean and damp. So not dripping wet, but a little water on it. And you're going to go like this. Okay, remember, the bigger the brush, the bigger the blend. Okay, or the bigger the blend, the bigger the brush you're going to need. And the reason for that is so that you don't have to make quite as many passes. You're less likely going to have streaks in it. Okay, so if you're trying to do a huge blend, you're going to want a bigger brush. Okay, that's basically how you do that blend. It might be kind of hard to see with the camera, but it blends from, you know, a yellower green to a green. Now, in case you wanted to move from one color that's more different than the other color, then you'd let this dry, and you would blend a color that's closer to the color that you want to blend into it. And I'll show you how that works. Okay, so now we can mix in more of a yellower green. Okay. Now we're getting more of a shift. Okay? And we can let this dry, and then we could blend even a yellower green into it. So now I'm going to talk about sharp edges. And you're going to realize that there's edges that are sharp. And how are you going to depict them using paint? And I'm going to discuss two ways. And the first way is going to be using the flat, and the other way is going to be using the fine round. So first, let's use the method with a flat. Alright, so using the flat and using the edge of the flat, you can get a sharp edge. Sometimes you have to go over it, you know, twice, but okay. Now you get a sharp edge. So this is best for a sweeping sharp edge. Okay, one that's not too, you know, squirrely. Okay, this is going to allow a degree of control that you're not going to be able to get with that flat. Okay, so if you have really fine edges, they're really small but need to be sharp, I'd use the fine round. Sometimes you gotta go over them twice to get them nice and sharp. Okay, and then there's a sharp edge. This edge on this side. Sharp, okay? So for very detailed sharp edges, you're gonna use the fine round.